Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into the Peacemaker podcast on the Full Circle Network, where we discuss all things Peacemaker, going over each episode every week. This week, we're going over episode 4, The Chode Less Traveled, directed by Jody Hill, written by James Gunn. This is going to be a spoiler podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode or haven't watched any of the episodes, I recommend you clicking away, not listening to this podcast. This week, I am joined by our editor-in-chief, Jackson Hayes.
Thank you for having me, Ernesto. I'm very excited to talk about all things Chode.
All right, let's go. And I'm also joined today by, who will hopefully be my co-host from here on forward, Christian Hubbard, lead news writer at Full Circle Cinema.
What's going on, everybody?
All right, cool.
Ernesto.
Oh, I'm glad you're here, man. I'm glad to have both of you here. Jackson, Christian, it's truly a meeting of the minds, a really unique grouping for us. So this episode, like I said, is not directed by James Gunn. The first 3 were. And it picks up immediately after the shocking events at the end of the 3rd episode, where we finally find out what butterflies are. And it starts with Peacemaker, Vigilante, the team, Project Butterfly, in the truck, driving back home after that nearly botched mission to kill Senator Goff, and tied up Judo Master. At this point, what do you guys think of the team dynamic? I feel like that's a big highlight of this episode. I just want to know your guys' thoughts on the whole dynamic of Project Butterfly and all these colorful and troubled characters we have. Jackson, what do you think of the team?
The first 3 episodes did a lot of work getting you to know them as people. I mean, we met them, at least some of them, in the Suicide Squad, and they were hard, a little rough around the edges, especially Harcourt, but we're finally opening up and learning some things about them. I think Adebayo does a lot of good for the crew, just because she's kind of that grounded character that everyone can relate to in this real messed up world of crazy people. We can kind of be like, yeah, what is going on here? Like, this should not be normal, and these situations should not be overlooked. The way everyone else kind of overlooks them. I think the beginning is definitely the highlight. Adding Vigilante officially to the crew there at the beginning, I thought was great, and they weren't keeping him on the sidelines wasn't really the way to go moving forward. So I'm glad they moved him in fully.
Definitely, Christian. What did you think of the team dynamics this episode?
Yeah. I think it's interesting. It seems like they're starting to get really used to each other. Like, there was a moment at the beginning of it where Peacemaker is kind of going off at Murn, is like super angry and aggressive towards him. Like, and that's like a relationship that you only have with someone that you've known for so long, or like you've gone through war with each other. So it seems like they're really starting to let down that veil of distrust that they've had for a little while for those first 3 episodes. So it seems like they're starting to gel a little bit in good ways and in more aggressive ways. Like, they're starting to, like, you didn't let me know what was going on, and to Cena's credit, like he has like this like super like intensity inside of him that he's able to unleash in those sorts of moments where like the team is they have the same goal, right? So it's so cool to see them like sort of come together as a team in good ways and in negative ways.
Yeah, watching Cena or Christopher Smith, Peacemaker, clash with Murn at the beginning of the episode was really great, because Peacemaker's still trying to hide in this, like, sort of trying to hide his vulnerability. He's still using the dove of peace as an excuse. The first thing he says is he's yelling at Murn. He's like, "You didn't put the cussing dove of peace on my gun, and I can't kill without it." And the way that Murn and him clash, I think, is just an interesting dynamic. I feel like Christopher gets different moments with different characters in this episode, except for Economos. I think like there's a different moment for each of them, but watching them work in that office environment sort of thing is kind of funny. It's like a really twisted workplace comedy, I think. And then, like you said, like Jackson pointed out, Vigilante's officially part of the group. Murn recruits him because they need ruthless killers. Like, if he can't depend on people like Peacemaker and Vigilante, then essentially the world is screwed. Which kind of, I think, carries forward the themes of, like, the Suicide Squad, where, like, everyone has a purpose. But I guess, like, in a sort of darker sort of way.
And to that point, I think it's kind of funny with Vigilante's toe bit, like where he lost part of his pinky toe, and they're kind of giving him crap about it. Like, that's just camaraderie building. Like, we all have a common joke to aim at this new guy on the team.
Speaking of that, what do you guys think of, like, the next bit of the show, which is Vigilante trying to say that he's upset with Peacemaker without telling him that he's upset. Jackson, what'd you think of that whole scene in the car where Vigilante is trying to tell him in a not so subtle way, like, hey, you sort of left me for dead there, and I'm kind of upset about that.
I think in a funny way, Vigilante sort of is what Peacemaker claims to be. This guy who will do whatever it takes to get to his goal, but he's actually a nice guy, like a good person. I think Adebayo points that out later for nefarious reasons, not to jump ahead a little bit, but, she points out that she does think he's a good person, which he seems to be, like, in a twisted way. Like, he seems to be a good guy. And, like, obviously he was hurt by someone who he believes is his friend, not taking his pain into consideration or his well-being into consideration. And it was obviously very funny. They're bickering back and forth like they're brothers, which Peacemaker tries to refuse and tries not to, buy into. But it's clearly they have a bond, and like they share this similar way of wanting this ultimate goal of peace or wanting this ultimate goal of crime to go away. But because Peacemaker sees him as like a little brother type and like just the buddy of his friend, some former friend of his down the street, he can't take him seriously.
Yeah, and to your point about Vigilante being what Peacemaker wants to be, he's also open with his feelings. I feel like you see in that scene, like I guess in a way he's trying to show him that he's upset that he considers Peacemaker his best friend, and then he treated him that way. Freddie Stroma is I just want to point out, Freddie Stroma, he's the MVP of this episode for me. He has, I think, the best highlights in this episode, and this is just the beginning of it, when he goes to Peacemaker's father's house with him to get more helmets, and he sort of confronts Peacemaker about something that he hasn't really been talking about, which is that his dad's a racist. Christian, what do you think of that whole confrontation there where Vigilante's like, dude, your dad's racist?
I thought it was
like a duck.
Sort of unexpected, right? Because so far he's been sort of portrayed as like this fanboy of Peacemaker. But it kind of gives, Vigilante's kind of like a well-rounded character. Like, yeah, he's obsessed with him. He wants to help him. He wants to be his friend. But he's not going to take any crap from him either. Like, if you did me wrong, homie, like, I'm going to tell you that you did me wrong. And, hey, there's an elephant in the room. Your dad's a major racist, and everybody knows it. Like, Gunn, it's a cool choice that Gunn made to kind of flesh out Vigilante's character a little bit, where he's not just kind of like a doormat for Peacemaker. Like he's gonna confront him, and he's gonna be honest with him, like a true brother would, right?
Exactly. And so when he goes to the house, he discovers, to his dismay, after he's been trying to beat around the bush with what's going on with his dad, he sort of feels like he finds out that he has to confront his father because, unfortunately, John Economos and Clemson Murn framed Peacemaker's father, Agee Smith, for what Peacemaker did in the first couple episodes when he gets away and kills that butterfly. So Peacemaker's father's in prison, and Peacemaker's going to go straight over there, and that's going to compromise the whole mission, but he doesn't care because as much of his father is a piece of trash, he still wants to, make amends with him, which is really, really sad. This sort of like unrequited love, like he loves his father, but his father clearly doesn't love him back. So Adebayo goes after him, and I think there's a really interesting mirror between the two characters of Peacemaker and Adebayo, especially shown in this episode, because they both have these very overbearing parents who are just like a shadow on their lives. One is a racist, and one is like one of the most ruthless women you'll ever see in DC Comics. Jackson, what do you think of that like dichotomy between Adebayo and Peacemaker? These two people who, are sort of developing a kinship in this show.
I love that you pointed that out because I was thinking the very same thing with that bench scene with Vigilante, where she kind of, after Peacemaker runs into the prison, she kind of bears her soul to Vigilante for it's very deeply layered there. She wants him. She's trying to goad him into going inside the prison and killing Peacemaker's father to get to hide the information about Argus and everything that's going on. But also she's telling him about her own experiences with Amanda Waller and how and we have a moment in a different point in the episode where she's talking to Harcourt and kind of has a little bit of a breakdown. I mean, this is clearly weighing on her. This kind of this world that she doesn't want to be a part of, but that she's been thrust into by her mom, and this difficult situation that she's in, that she can empathize with Peacemaker in a way that nobody else can. And I know Murn sent her, and because he believed that Peacemaker trusted her, and in a way I think more than she knows, they're very much one and the same in a weird twisted way. And I think it's unfortunate that she's been put in this situation by her superiors and by her mother, and it is really sad because she's a very good person and she wants to do the right thing, and she's just ended up in a crap spot.
Christian, what do you think of Adebayo at this point in her relationship with Peacemaker?
Yeah, I was thinking sort of something similar when I watched the episode, but it's weird, right? Like Peacemaker, Christopher Smith, he's like, it seems like he's desperate for the approval of his father. But on the other hand, it seems like Adebayo doesn't really care what Amanda Waller thinks of her. Like, she's just doing this job because she lost hers and she got the gig from her mom. Like, she's going to do this one and then she's going to get out and have a kid with her wife and all that. So it's like they've been kind of vague about, her skill set and her qualifications for being on the team. But it seems like she doesn't really care what Amanda Waller has to. She's just doing this because she needs the money, right? So it's this like... Amanda Waller has these expectations for Adebayo, and she's just sort of going through the motions to get a paycheck, while Cena's character is like desperate for his father to do the exact same thing. Like, I want you to set expectations so I can meet them, so you can finally be proud of me, Dad. So I think it's a weird. They kind of mirror each other in that way.
Yeah, I think without a doubt that the James Gunn is just a master at making really messed up father and son relationships, and I think this is like the saddest one and like the deepest one because it has time to grow, because James Gunn is really using this episodic format to his advantage to try to really develop his characters way more. And so Peacemaker goes into the prison and his father just berates him even more and threatens to derail the whole thing, so Adebayo sort of manipulates Vigilante to go and try and kill Peacemaker's father. What do you guys think of that scene when Adrian Chase gets himself arrested, Jackson?
Oh, I mean, it's when you point out that he was the MVP, I think in a lot of ways, I mean, his comedic stuff is just some of the best stuff. I mean, the fact that the only idea he can come up with is to walk into a bunch of benches, like the hangout area for all the police who are on lunch, and just throw a trash can into a window. Like, that's his his massive idea to get in. I mean, it works, right? I mean, he does whatever he can. I just love how on board he was with it. Like, this moral code that he has, as soon as he hears something that like he believes is wrong or someone that needs to be taken off the board, he does not hesitate for 1 second. And I think that, that says a lot about him in a lot of ways, but I think, it's weird the way that, Peacemaker was portrayed in the Suicide Squad is, we're seeing those deeper layers about him as a character now. And I think, we're going to get there with Vigilante eventually where, we know a lot about him, but, he even touched on some stuff about his own father in this episode. And I think this episode was a lot about, the sins of the father or the mother in the case of Adebayo. But, the importance that parental figures play and how, his relationship with his father isn't very good. And that he, and that's, not to jump ahead again, but he has that confrontation, and he points out to Peacemaker's dad that he's a bad father, and that this whole thing was about being a bad father, and that he does not like people who are bad to the people who love them, or in the same way that he was upset at Peacemaker.
Well, Christian, what'd you think of Vigilante scenes in the prison? He has a whole bit in the prison that I think you were particularly fond of.
Yeah, I love that scene, and I want to talk about it, but I do want to highlight there was a bit where Adebayo sees Vigilante with his mask off for the first time, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm not Vigilante. Who's Vigilante?" I just sound just like Freddie Stroma's, his character work and his comedy is just like so top notch. And for me, who I don't have a lot of experience with this actor, like I've fallen in love head over heels to his commitment to this character. Like, he is absolutely hilarious.
He's so funny in this scene. You want to describe what
happens
in the prison?
The scene you're alluding to when he sits down in the prison and he's like, table full of racists, let's go around in a circle and say like what we're most happy that black people brought to American culture. I'm pretty sure I texted you right away and you're like, dude, I thought of you right when you saw that scene. Like, that was the funniest, like most badass thing that Vigilante could have possibly done for me personally. Like, cause that's just him like giving a big F you to those racists that are sitting there. Like, he clearly has a code. He'll kill. He a couple episodes ago where he said he likes like feeling the life of people leave. Like, he's got his issues, but he's got a moral code, and that was such a cool like badass character moment for him to just go straight up to these racists and be like, no, let's talk about the contributions of black people straight up upon meeting them, just to incite them. That was like brilliant work by James Gunn.
Yeah, and the fight choreography is cool too. Adrian Chase cleans house, beats up all the white supremacists except for Peacemaker's father, who won't be, lured into a fight, and they both get arrested or handcuffed and taken to their cells, and all Adrian has to say is just, "You're a bad dad." But then he realizes he screwed up because now Auggie Smith is for sure going to blow the whole thing over, and he's going to let anyone know as soon as possible what's really going on. So Adrian sort of goes defeated to his cell despite his best efforts. After that, Judo Master, last episode, taken out by Economos. That little dude finds a way to escape his binds and gets into a big fight with Peacemaker. What'd you think of that rematch, Jackson? That rematch between Judo Master and Peacemaker?
I'm so glad that it happened because they obviously had their issues in episode 3, and Peacemaker took great offense to being bested by Judo Master. And the choreography was fantastic. We haven't seen a lot of that stuff so far. Just like, real good hand-to-hand combat in this show. And come on. It blew away my expectations. And getting John Cena in there with the physicality, it's what he does best. And I think, the scene had a lot of implications, and I'm sure we'll get into them about, him trying to, tell him that these butterflies are not what they, not what they seem. And there's a whole different situation going on, which of course, there's always layers. It's never as simple as evil aliens are coming to invade. We got to destroy them. At least with James Gunn projects. I'm sure it's happened before, but it's never that simple. So we're gonna explore that further, obviously, in episodes to come. But come on, great fight. Happy to see it. Happy they had it happen. Didn't know it would be so quick, but I was very glad it happened.
Yeah, that was great choreography, and the difference in size between the two is very humorous. I thought it was hilarious how he tells Peacemaker that he has a weirdly molded body, and Peacemaker calls him a shrimp, and they're just throwing hands. But then Adebayo saves Peacemaker, and Peacemaker gets upset at that. He says that this was going to be his redemption fight and redeem his character. But after that, Judo Master stopped again. For some reason, this kid just won't die. He gets hit by a car, he survives. He gets shot. He seemingly survives here because they've got him bandaged up to an IV. And Harcourt has to bail Adrian Chase out of jail, and he comes back defeated in a really, really sad performance by Freddie Stroma. Once again, one of the MVPs of this episode. There's 2 MVPs. I'll talk about the other one in a bit. But one of the MVPs in this episode is he gets into Harcourt's car, sort of defeated and kind of sad. He looks like he wants to cry, and he's like, he's still alive. I think I made things worse. And he says his name. He just goes up to her. He doesn't try to conceal his identity this time. He's a little bit more serious. He's like, "Hi, I'm Adrian." Harcourt kind of took a back seat here, huh, guys? Do you guys remember anything significant that Jennifer Holland's character did in this episode?
Outside of that moment with Adebayo where she was just kind of yelling at her and berating her again about the fact that but it was kind of a real moment because we got her backstory in episode 3, just about a little bit about her father and what she had done growing up, and how she ended up working with Argus. So it's probably she's a hard ass. She grew up the hard way, and she's in these situations and knows what she's doing, and she just doesn't like taking crap and people screwing up things. And she has a lot of people on her team who are professional screwer ups. It's what they do, and it's just one of those situations where she didn't do a ton, but I think that moment was pretty telling that she was just trying to. Try not to hold hands with these people as they get into this situation. You got to dive deep, and you just got to get in there if the world's going to be saved.
Yeah. What do you think? What you think of Harcourt in this episode, Christian?
Yeah, I think this one kind of really, like Jackson said, she does kind of take a back seat, but the moments that she's in they stood up. They were key moments to me. She's the one that goes and picks Vigilante up from jail, and she's the one who Adebayo kind of has this breakdown to. She's kind of the backbone of the whole team. She's clearly the one that Murn trusts the most. She's clearly the one that we saw with Economos in the Suicide Squad movies. So she's kind of the backbone. She's like I don't want to say the moral fiber of the team, or the heart and soul of the team, because she's got her demons too. But she's kind of the one that's holding it all together. Even, just to make the choice to have her pick Vigilante up from jail, that just shows that she's the clear leader of the team. Everyone, she's Murn's second in command. Like it's clear that this mission is serious to her, and she's going to do whatever she can to make sure that this team, whether she dislikes them or not, they stick together and they achieve the common goal.
And on that point,
Yeah.
I just wanted to, not to cut you off, but I want to get your thoughts on this too, just about that vigilante moment, because we've seen moments in this show before where people get into the car with her or come to talk to her and try to like bare their soul to her. You know, Peacemaker's done it, Adebayo done it, and she kind of like brushed them off, like very quickly. Where she did not do that with Vigilante. She really she let him, say his piece, and then just kind of looked at him like a sad puppy, and like she understood that like he was doing what he thought was best, and like honestly he probably did give it his all, and that she has come to the point where she's like, maybe I need to like let these people let them
I'm so
feel.
glad you said that. Yeah. Cut me off anytime you say stuff like that. That was pretty incredible.
Will do.
I mean, it's kind of it's showing that she has a heart, right? All she knows about Vigilante is that he's this pain in the ass with a mask that screws stuff up. Well, he takes the mask
And he's
off,
their bus
she's
boy.
Like, oh.
He's also their bus boy one time.
Yeah, he's just a kid, right? Like, so I think she sees that. He's just a kid trying to do his best. He clearly loves Peacemaker so much. Like, I think it's showing that she has a heart. Like, this is just a kid trying to do right. If I can help him, if I can, maybe I should.
Yeah, so while that's happening, after the rather emotional day Peacemaker had, first he had a fight with his best friend, not Eagly, Vigilante. He has a fight with his best friend, then he gets yelled at by his piece of trash dad, and then so he decides to, after a long day, just go home to his trailer, smoke some weed, and get high listening to House of Pain. And when he does that, we get this crazy reveal that he didn't kill the butterfly at the end of episode 3. He kept it in a jar with like holes in it, and he blows some of that smoke in there to smoke with it. And what did you guys think of that reveal that he kept the butterfly, Jackson?
I think they kind of telegraphed that early on. Like he'd mentioned that he killed it, but obviously we didn't see him kill it. So you knew there was something going on. I think it was great. I think he made the right move. I think he's smarter than a lot of people give him credit for, and I think he did that prior to Judo Master telling him that the butterflies were not what that he was told they were. So I think he's smarter than than people will say, and I think he deserves credit for that. And I think he may be the one that gets to the bottom of this, given obviously something we'll talk about later on. I don't want to jump ahead. That there's obviously something bigger going on than just what Argus has led them to believe, and I think it's massive. I think it's a great character moment.
Christian, thoughts on the butterfly pet?
Yeah, I agree. It kind of blew me away. At first, I was thinking like, oh, this is just his moral dilemma. Like he doesn't want to kill anymore. He sees this innocent small little butterfly. Oh, I'm not going to kill it just because of this dilemma that he's having. But to Jackson's point, like they really haven't given him anything, right? So he kills the guy in the last episode, and this butterfly comes out. Like, of course he's gonna keep it. Like, Christopher Smith has been around. He's gone on some crazy missions before. Like, clearly this isn't his first rodeo. Like, he knows that he has to acquire his own intel at times to get to the bottom of it, because he's clearly not going to get it from Murn, going back to that argument that he had immediately after he saved the butterfly. So it was kind of like a jaw drop moment that, like, okay, he may come off as an idiot sometimes, but the gears are constantly turning for this guy.
Yeah, and now at this point in the episode, this is where I want to mention the second MVP of this. So the first one was Freddie Stroma. This one, I don't want to butcher his name, is the editor of this episode, Greg Daria, because his editing really elevates Cena's performance to like a whole other level. It's dialed into 11. So as he's dancing and like, moving to the song House of Pain, like he's doing it so emotionally, it's intercut with scenes from his childhood where he was forced to kill somebody by his father when he was just a kid. And it's also intercut with Rick Flagg's death in the Suicide Squad. And then you sort of hear a voiceover of Joel Kinnaman's voice of the now iconic line, Peacemaker, what a joke. So what'd you guys think of that powerful scene with that beautifully intercut, like, rather traumatic moments in Chris's life that just caused him to collapse in tears? What'd you think of that scene, Jackson?
Well, I know you got to watch the episode, a chance to watch it before I did. And so you had told me there was some major callback that I need to be looking out for.
Yeah.
And so when I got to that scene, I started like, oh, okay. And then, it floored me. this guy, he looks up to people like Rick Flag, right? I mean, that was evident in the Suicide Squad. He looks up to people like his father, for better or worse. That's his father. He wants him to be, that guiding light in his life. And at every turn, those lights are smothered out, whether it's him having to kill Rick, his dad, hating him, and his brother who ended up dying now under mysterious circumstances. We still, that will be unearthed, I'm sure, here in the next few episodes. That like all these important people in his life just go away, and he can't understand why. He can't come to terms to, why these figures in his life, his life in general has just gone the direction that it has. Because obviously he was, you could tell he's a good person. There's a good person in there that's been molded into this kind of, this soldier who doesn't know truly right from wrong or what direction to go. That it was a wonderful moment, and only on an Ernesto podcast will we give credits to an editor. So major points there.
Yeah, incredible editing. Christian, what do you think of that emotional moment?
Oh, it was flawless. It was clear from like when Peacemaker is crying in bed, and a couple episodes ago, everyone hates me, you killed Flag. Like, he's carrying that weight and that trauma around, and it's not just Flag, right? We get the cuts of him as a kid, like he's in a clearly in a street fight, being egged on by his dad. Like, there's just so much going on, and this character could have just been a goofy brute played by John Cena, is shrouded in this innate sadness. Like, he's sad, he's torn up inside, he's dealing with a lot of trauma. The man clearly has PTSD, he's got anxiety, he's got depression, like, and that's such a strong character moment for him. Like, he's been through it all. He got, his dad crapped all over him. He just needs his music, and he needs to just dance it out. And I think that this is this the first time that we see that the scene from his childhood?
Yeah, I think that's the first time we see it. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and that's just, I had no idea we were going to get this deep into his origin story. I didn't know his dad was going to be such a huge part of the plot. I didn't know that we were going to get this mystery surrounding his older brother. Like, that when I didn't know that we were going to get like flashbacks to his childhood. Like, there's a lot that goes into this character, a lot more than people would assume. And that moment is kind of I think that's going to stand apart. Like, if there is a for-your consideration, like kind of run for John Cena for any of the Emmys or whatever, like, that one's good. That scene's going to be the highlight for it, because it just reveals so much about him.
Yeah, that was my favorite scene of the episode, but it doesn't end there. After that pretty hefty emotional moment, we cut to Adebayo working the late hours at the office, doing more research on the butterflies, and she comes upon something. We don't know exactly what. I guess we'll find out next week. But she calls Murn immediately, the team leader, who's been struggling throughout the whole episode to just keep the team on course. I think he yelled at every single one of them individually this episode, which I thought was great. Incredible performance by the actor who plays Murn. I don't want to butcher his name. But then the episode ends with a absolutely gut-wrenching sort of cliffhanger that Murn is a butterfly. What did you guys think of that cliffhanger ending? Jackson?
I mean, it changes everything, right? I mean, you have to take what Judo Master said into consideration. You have to take everything he's ever said into consideration. You have to take, what information Amanda Waller has into consideration. Like, this is game changing. We don't know what the butterflies are. We don't know what they want. We don't know why they would have infiltrated Murn or what they intend to do with him. I mean, it's going to be fascinating, I think. And I think that's why, I jumped to Peacemaker is going to be the one I feel like that's going to unearth this whole thing. I think he's the one with the straightest head right now. I think a lot of people are kind of blind. I think, people like Harcourt are just frustrated and trying to get the job done. And Adebayo is way too wrapped up in her own life. I think Peacemaker is going to somehow be the one in the middle of this to come out and take charge and figure out what exactly is going on here.
Yeah. Christian, what do you think of the little twist at the end there?
Yeah, blew me away. There's something bigger going on here, clearly, and Murn is definitely in the middle of it. But I think what's cool about it is that it kind of sets Murn apart from Amanda Waller. Because, like, when I saw the cast listing, I didn't see Viola Davis is on the call sheet. She obviously makes the cameo in the first episode, but I saw this Murn character. I'm like, oh, he's another hard ass. He's a black figure in this organization. Like, he's just the quasi replacement for Amanda Waller in this episode because they didn't want to pay Viola Davis or something. But like, this clearly sets him apart. It gives him his own path. He's deeper involved in this butterfly thing than what we previously thought. So it kind of gives him his own character to explore and grow with, which I thought was amazing because I thought he was just simply going to be a stand-in for Viola Davis.
Yeah, it was definitely a way to end an episode. It's really going to be interesting to see how it pays off over the next few episodes. So, yeah, once again, shout out to the MVPs of this episode, editor Greg Daria and Freddie Stroma as Adrian Chase Vigilante. Those were my 2 MVPs. You guys have any other different MVPs? Any highlights from the episode that you guys wanted to talk about that maybe we didn't talk about?
I'll give credit to Adebayo. I think it's Danielle Brooks, if I'm not mistaken.
That's it.
She's been, and like I mentioned earlier, like, she's the grounded character, right? She's the person that everyone watching can relate to. But I think, her slowly breaking down through the situation, and like part of it, trying to take her humanity and her fighting back at that, and the fact that, she had to shoot somebody today, or not today, but in this week's episode, which is, something she struggled with last week, is just a testament to the fact that, like, not everyone in this situation is as messed up as the others, Economos and Harcourt are used to this kind of thing. Murn's obviously the hard ass, but she's not like them. And I think that's why, Peacemaker relates to her. And I think that's why everyone, she's this like moral compass and the guiding light on the team that I think will be useful as they continue to go deeper into this conspiracy.
Right. Christian?
I'll say 2. I can't. Can you give me I can't remember the name of the actor that plays the White Dragon, John Cena's dad.
Robert Patrick.
Robert Patrick. He's super good at playing a racist. Like, he's so believable in everything that he says. All those little quips that he has here and there. But honestly, I'm gonna say the MVP for me is Gunn. Like, the writing. There's a bit that I had to pause because I was like, this is meta. Like, James Gunn got deep into it where Peacemaker's going off about, do you know how many people Batman indirectly murdered by not killing his victims? Like, that's stuff that we read on Twitter every day. That's what we get into arguments about in the group chat. Like, that's just something that comes straight out of the mouth of a DC fan, and to see it in a DC EU project just blew my mind. It made me, like, I was cracking up, I was dying. Like, that was just the writing.
The old guy's
so
all scared. I just wanted to make conversation. That was incredible.
It's just the writing is off the charts. Like, James Gunn is doing some of the best work of his career right here, and it's not coming off as fan service either. Like, it's clearly like something that he's passionate about. He thought about that. He put his heart and his soul into the writing that he's putting off in these episodes.
Yeah, he definitely needs to do more TV. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up the podcast, our Peacemaker podcast. Jackson, where can they find you on Twitter?
You can find me at JacksonHayes67.
All right, nice. What about you, Christian?
At KyloCool630. Follow Full Circle Cinema.
Right. Yes, sir. You can follow us at Full Circle Cine without the M. And you can follow me at thisis_Ernesto. And you could check out our Peacemaker reviews. They drop as soon as the episodes drop every Thursday. I'll be posting another one for episode 4. Should be up in correspondence with this podcast. So we got a podcast. We got a written review. We're doing everything Peacemaker. And you can keep an eye out for more news, coverage, features, exclusives on FullCircleCinema.com. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.